way the United Center set up, it's like all sorts of fencing around it. Maybe it was just for this weekend. I don't know. I still think there's some construction stuff going on. And you roll around to this corner, and there's about 20 deep, and there's some security guard going to say, sorry, beat it. He's like, we close will call. It was the NBA's call. They close will call. And guys are like, what? What do you mean you close will call? It's like 8:20, like, yeah, okay, we missed the skills thing and some of the three-pointer, but like, we all have tickets at will call. This is ridiculous. So that goes on for like 10, 15 minutes. Finally, like everybody sort of just overpowers the security guard and just like, look, we're going to walk up to the window. And the security guard's like, fine, I'm sick of arguing with all you guys. Go ahead. And then we go to that door, and then some older guy answers the door, and I'm like trying to be civil out. I'm like, hey, look, like the NBA left me these tickets. We are good to go. Like, this is kind of ridiculous that we can't just go to will call. He goes, we close will call. The NBA said it was our call, or the NBA made the call, which again, I don't even believe. I think the United Center just did it. And then a dude next to me starts getting really mouthy with the security guard who's older. And the kid who's getting mouthy is like, I'm about to put my hands on you, man. And I was like, okay, well, wait a minute. Now I'm thinking like even though the security guard is leaving like us out in the freezing cold in Chicago, you're an asshole to the kid. And I was like, I'm actually going to defend him, even though he's in my way of getting in there because you're just acting like a jerk. And then finally, some guy comes over from the United Center, super mad at everybody. He goes, we're going to open up will call, but it's your fault. And he's yelling and yelling and yelling, which made me realize it probably wasn't the NBA's call, because I don't think the NBA, if they were going to do something like that, would then change their mind. I think I think people just were like, hey, whatever, it's late and we want to go home and it's freezing. And
or they wanted to go watch they wanted to watch the dunk contest.
Yeah, with all of our tickets. And so after they said they were going to open it, they opened it up 15 minutes later. And by the time we even got in there, we missed most of the first round. But it actually worked out perfect. We saw like 45 minutes of the dunk contest. I mean, other than standing outside for 45 minutes, but it's really come down to a mystery of, I'm not going to, well, I guess I did blame the United Center, so I'll just leave it at that.
Common should have added that story into his half-hour thing that he did beforehand, before the All-Star game today.
I texted you because I was going to come up, but I got in back to LA late.
Yeah.
And I go, wait, this thing isn't starting for another hour? And you're like, no, it's starting right now. And it started an hour later.
Yeah. Aaron Gordon. So he lost twice. Yeah. And because of just the way social media goes and recency bias and all that stuff, people decide this is one of the great tragedies in the history of All-Star Weekend, all this stuff. I think here's where this leads. 5 years from now, he enters the dunk contest again. He ends up winning with a good performance, not great, marrying Al Pacino and Scent a Woman. Like where it's like, it's the makeup call Oscar, basically, for Aaron Gordon. So he can retire now, do the whole thing. I'm not going to join again. Come back in 3 years and you get the makeup contest win. I think that's how this plays out. The 3-point contest, the Buddy Hield comeback was actually pretty exciting. I mean, he basically ran the rack except for one, then hit the 2-pointer for the win at the end. And for some reason, Trae Young was the first person to congratulate him, which I didn't tell you. A lot of Trae Young this weekend. He did a really good job of being in every place. But I thought that was a pretty good ending. I thought it was a pretty good Saturday night for the most part. I taped it and zoomed through it. And I still like the 3-point and the dunk. I know it's for kids, but I'm always going to at least watch it. Whether I'm going to be totally happy with it, I don't know. But,
yeah, that's what I think the point is. Like some stuff, okay, so something isn't your favorite. Can you appreciate that other people like it? And that's kind of the way I've been with it. Like as I get older, it's not like a to-do list. Like, hey, I got to be home. I don't know that, really since Vince Carter. I mean, once one of the guys from the Utah Jazz who was in the G League won it, I was like, all right, I don't know what to do here. But I think it's just kind of cool, man. I think it's really cool that all these guys in this league get together. They get to hang out. It's a very, the NBA can be really cool when you focus on like how positive it is that these guys are close. I know it can be nauseating with the way they recruit each other, and that doesn't even bother me, but I know it turns a lot of people off, and that it's not this nastiness that we had growing up, which, yes, I miss a little bit. But the league deciding like, hey, we're just going to plant our flag in a really great city for 3 or 4 days and celebrate all these different guys and get as many people that, that's the other cool thing. It's like, hey, it's not just 24 players. Like, let's have 100+ players here and everybody hanging out, and you go into one hotel and then you run into 3 or 4 guys. And it's kind of like a mini Super Bowl week, but it's all about basketball and people that love it. Where the Super Bowl feels more like a media industry event. Like if you're in the media, you kind of have to be at it. This is about, I'm not trying to be corny or cheesy, but I think there are times you just go, hey, maybe not everything's for you, but look at it as a positive. because the league has this window of a few days of celebrating itself. And again, it being in Chicago, I mean, we both know Chicago's awesome. And once Friday's weather, I mean, when it was 30 on Saturday, I was just loving life, walking around in a t-shirt.
They do a nice job. I'm with you, obviously. I agree. And I think of all the leagues, they do by far the best job of not only incorporating as many of the current guys as possible, but the history of the game and all the legends that are in attendance. The way the league takes care of the former stars is,
yeah.
And you just see them even whether you're watching the dunk contest or you're watching the All-Star game tonight, and you just see like somebody's walking during a dead ball situation. It's like Scottie Pippen's face is over his right shoulder. And then somebody goes the other way, and it's like, there's Dikembe Mutombo. It's like the ghosts of NBA past in a good way are all sprinkled all over this event. The finals is like this a little bit too, but not as dramatic as it is with All-Star. And you think like the same weekend where baseball, Jeff Passan wrote this column over the weekend, baseball was burning. And that was his lead sentence. And it was actually a good column. And it was about baseball is just in complete chaos right now. And the players have turned on each other and everybody's against the Astros. And then the Astros are refusing to admit that they've completely disgraced the game. They're fighting back. Rob Manfred's taken no accountability whatsoever. He's barely disciplining these guys at all. It's one of the most embarrassing commissioner performances of all time, ever in the history of sports. And you think like this sport is such a train wreck. And you have situations where like the Red Sox, who make $500+ million a year, trading Mookie Betts to save money. They turn Mookie Betts and David Price into Martin Perez, Kevin Pillar, and Alex Verdugo as a stress fracture in his back. And they did this after they raised ticket prices. The league is a fucking shit show. And then you watch the NBA this weekend that for all its faults, and we love to complain about it, but still, for the most part, really has its shit together and really embraces the camaraderie of the league and the history of all that. And it was just kind of striking that those two things were happening simultaneously, I felt like.
When I first started working at ESPN was 2006. I completely agree with you. Completely agree. So that my pause was gathering my thoughts, not disagreeing at all. 2006, my first year, and we used to just do the Bonds stuff every night. And I'm like, man, we haven't been this hot on baseball since the last scandal. Unfortunately, like that's all that seems to become like, hey, what's the national baseball topic that we can do? We're like, oh, it's a shit show right now. And, not to go down the Mookie Betts thing, but I mean, there's a million jokes there on Verdugo. You're like, well, when Verdugo comes back in 2021, will he take at bats away from all the free agents that they sign?
Right.
What is it? Is it Zach Cram who writes for you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really good. And he did the Mookie breakdown, which is incredible. It's called The Myths Behind Boston's Mookie Betts Trade Justification. That's on The Ringer. Check it out. Even if you don't care about baseball, like what the Red Sox did and how they sold this to their fan base and what the actual real savings is so minimal. Like it's absurd because you have all these other chances to reset the tax thing. So when you think about the baseball headlines, and this is really why, there was that period where we thought, is the NFL in decline? No. And then we thought, is the NBA the best franchise to invest in? And it felt like yes there for a little while because it trends younger. It's more international. It's all these different things. And then the dip in the ratings this year, have made people think, like whenever it comes to the rating stuff, Bill, I'm like, let me see a few years of this. I know people get worried about it, but let me see a few years of evidence because we're doing this exact same conversation about how the NFL is too woke and the South was turning it off, right? And you're like, oh, nope, everybody's back. Like whatever it wasn't a developing thing. It was a blip. And when I think about how we were doing NBA topics, they at least were always fun. So for years, I mean, the NFL was concussions, it was Kaepernick, it was all the social just observations and debates on that. Right. All of this stuff that it wasn't fun. I mean, the Deflategate thing was nauseating. It went on forever. And at least with basketball, and I think that's a really great observation on just it being a fun weekend and celebrating the game and celebrating the history of the game. And you go, the basketball topics are at least fun topics. I mean, look, everybody's got their problems, but I mean, think how long it's been since the NBA's had like an awful situation with like a player getting into trouble, right?
Right.
Like, am I missing somebody recently? Unless like, I don't think Dion Waiters taking edibles is on everybody's radar.
Well, the Kobe thing, I can't remember if,
well, I didn't.
No,
right,
no.
I didn't mean it as
no,
right.
no, I don't. I'm going in a different direction. The Kobe thing and the fact that he was a basketball player and the way that impacted, it was probably the biggest celebrity death in the way it's been received and mourned and processed and just continues to be thought about and, dissected and still hitting people. It happened 3 weeks ago. It really feels like Princess Diana type of thing. And it makes you think, like, is basketball like the America's pastime for now? With the way it's crossed over culturally, you even see this weekend with the different music and Obama's there, and it's just this intersection of all of these different things and all of these personalities and celebrities. And even if the ratings aren't as big as football, and I think football is by far bigger. Like a Thursday night football game might have a bigger rating than Game 4 of the NBA Finals. So I'm not arguing that, but from an impact standpoint, it's pretty profound what's going on. Like Obama was not at the Super Bowl for 2 days, like doing panels and things like that. So something is different with how it resonates with people. And I think the Kobe thing played into that. You realize, like, if somebody becomes a truly famous, beloved basketball player, the impact of that surpasses any other sport now. I think even football. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I mean, it's kind of a weird topic to debate. Like, if somebody were to,
yeah, I'm not debating. It's just like LeBron, Kobe, Michael Jordan. Those have been the three biggest basketball players of the last 35 years, right? Has there been a football player who has been as far reaching as any of those guys in the last 35 years? Like, would you say Brett Favre?
No, it has to be Brady if we're even suggesting somebody, right?
Yeah, but do you think Brady has crossed over from a personality standpoint like those three guys did?
No, I feel like Brady, we know much less about him.
Yeah,
I mean, I would put Jordan, right. I mean, we know LeBron, he's basically been an open book the entire time. And Kobe was a real one, like Kobe was somebody like, I don't think there's another version of Kobe that you would meet. You'd be like, wait a minute, who the hell is this guy? Like, and for all the heat LeBron takes, I think for the most part, he's, pretty well liked. Like, I don't think, I'm sure he could be tough as a teammate and everything, but you don't hear stories about him being this like raging jerk to people. And even Kobe was tough on his teammates. But I'll tell you, the Kobe thing's weird, man. It's weird, and that's not the greatest adjective, but it's just weird in that I'll have these moments where I forget that he's gone, and then I'll see a clip of him, and I'm like, holy shit, man. He's really gone. It's weird. I didn't think I was going to have that feeling, and I'll have these like little moments where I see him again, and I go, oh, yeah. Like, it'll bum me out for a little bit, not to say that other people aren't more bummed out. It's just, I'm surprised how often I'm catching myself sort of stopping what I'm doing because I'll see something from him and go, oh, man.
Well, but I think that speaks to what's a little different about the NBA is that these guys retire and then they live on in the second act as the legends where their games are on TV, they're on YouTube, they have these massive social followings, they show up at these different events, and it's like Bird and Magic retired in 1992, basically. Magic came back after briefly, but those guys have been out of the league for 30 years, and they still feel like they're really, really a part of the league. Jordan came back because he bought the Hornets, but Duncan's coaching for the Spurs. These guys kind of never go away. Whereas in football, Joe Montana retired. He was on TV for a couple of years, and then he's just kind of gone. Joe, unless these guys end up doing TV, there's really no scenario where they're back in their life. They just become these retired guys that we don't really think about again. In the NBA, they just kind of Shaq, Barkley. Karl Malone is the rare example of somebody who retired and he's kind of, I don't know what happened to him. He's not really around. But for the most part, not only are they around, but they show up and like Bill Russell is 86 and he presents the finals MVP. There's just something about the connectivity of the NBA and how they've embraced the past that I think is really unique. And, I think baseball had it for a while. And you think about a movie like even Field of Dreams, where the guy builds the baseball field and then the legends come back. Yeah. Spoiler alert. But baseball for years and years was like, right, Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle would show up on Letterman's show 30 years after he retired. And, Joe DiMaggio, and those guys kind of lived on as legends. What baseball players live on as legends now? A-Rod? Bonds? Clemens, like these guys don't live on that way. They just kind of go. I mean, in a lot of times, kind